Morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 2nd Ottawa County Planning and Policy Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is a public comment. If anyone would like to come and make public comment, please address your comments to the committee chair in 3 minutes. Going twice. Okay, there will be another opportunity for public comment at the end of the agenda. Second item is the approval of the agenda. And is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion and support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. First item under consent resolution is the approval of the meeting minutes from March 5th, 2024. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any comments? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 5th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. So that brings us to the first action item of the meeting. We have the Upper Macatawa Natural Area Restroom Design Contract with a suggested motion of to accept the proposal from MCSA Group for architectural and engineering services for the Upper Macatawa 84th Street Trailhead Restroom Building and forward to the Board of Commissioners for approval.
So moved.
So moved. Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. And I see Aaron is with us this morning. Aaron would be happy to address any questions we have.
So yeah, this is a project that's been before you a few times recently. We had a grant application that was submitted last month for this restroom, which is a need at Upper Mac. It's a relatively popular part, but would be more popular if we had accommodations for families and mountain bikers. So this would be, so this contract allows us to get started with engineering and it'd be reimbursable if we get the grant. I think we probably want to try to figure out how to do the project long term either way, whether or not the grant's successful. And I'll mention MC Smith, MCSA Group has done many of our restrooms. Quite a while ago, we had them create a standard design for our restrooms that we've used at Grand Ravines and Olive Shores, the new one being built at Ottawa Sands. This is a little more than their usual contract because some of the environmental conditions there, it's in a floodway, so it's a little bit more complicated. Though it rarely floods at the spot, it's a little bit more complicated project because of the floodplain permitting side of it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Aaron? Roger.
So does that mean that when it's built, it has to be built up a little higher, or how do they build?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that might involve. I know when we talked, several years ago, we've been talking about this a long time, and we had some initial discussions, and it might involve things like when you do the cinder blocks, you might have to leave like openings in the cinder block to like let water flow through. And there's different, depending on whether we do, there is utilities nearby. They're not super close, so it'd be expensive. You might have different things you do for septic systems and stuff related to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Morning. Thanks for being here with us this morning. And just a question, kind of an overview. When we put in showers at different places throughout the parks, I guess, how is the shower operated? Like, so could it be that someone would leave the water on indefinitely and it would stay on, or what is the concept? What is the model?
I'm not the most familiar. We don't have tons of showers, right? Except at the beaches. I usually with these, and one of the things you get graded on these grants is sustainability features. So we'd have some kind of like timer or shut off. It might be the thing. I'm not sure in this case if we're going to use the press thing where you press it in and it goes, and then you have to keep pressing it on, or, yeah. But yeah, there would be a thing to make sure it wouldn't run indefinitely.
Yep, just was thinking vandalism wise and
Yep.
being proactive. I assume that's probably in the plans, so.
Okay, any other questions for Aaron? No. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Let's go to roll call vote.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes,
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Belknap,
Yes,
motion
you.
passes.
thanks, Aaron. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Road Commission millage renewal with a suggested motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners a renewal of the countywide road millage to be placed on the August 2024 ballot for voter consideration.
So move.
So moved, okay.
Support.
Support, okay. In our audience today, we have Brett Laughlin, Managing Director of the Ottawa County Road Commission. And I know Brett's been involved in this millage for several years. Obviously, the kicked off in 2014.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and we partnered with a lot of our folks here within Ottawa County as well, clerk's office and fiscal services. So yeah, let's hear what you got.
So I'll just give you a little overview of the current road millage that's going to expire this year. So 10 years ago, when we were exploring this concept because of revenue shortages, we got with our township partners and the cities and villages to discuss this, and it was determined that $0.50 would be the appropriate amount to request the voters at that time. And it was also decided that every community that generates revenue, so every township, 17 of them, there'd be a separate pot of money that stays within that township. Likewise, the cities and villages would keep their portion of the millage. So I know the heading says Road Commission, but it really is a county-wide, meaning the Road Commission will receive the revenues on behalf of all the townships, and then the cities and villages will receive their portion of the revenues, all for road improvements throughout Ottawa County. So it started in 2014. It got put on the winter tax bill of 15. So most projects really didn't start until 16 because you can't do projects in the winter, or at least not very effectively anyways. So we're keeping a track of that. I'm happy to report that the Road Commission has done and will do 162 miles of improvements with that 10-year millage. So this past last year and this year, we've had a lot more discussions with our townships and cities about should we renew that again? Should we ask for an increase? It was fairly unanimous that really just a renewal would be the most appropriate thing to ask the voters for consideration of. I learned a lot through the process and dealing with the equalization that I just thought if we asked for renewal that it would be a $0.50 again. But through Headley, the millage rate has actually been reduced over time. And the sense of our board and the townships and most of the cities and villages is we just want to ask for a true renewal, meaning what the rate is today, continuing on with Headley. So that's how the language is developed for this proposed ballot. So with that, I will entertain any additional questions.
Mr. Minema.
morning, Brett. Thanks for being here this morning with us.
Sure.
Would this be an additional 10 years, this particular?
Yes, we'd
proposed
ask for a
millage?
10-year proposal.
Okay.
Commissioner Moss.
Yeah, good morning. So is there a reason why these look to be typically 10 years? Is that just kind of the norm?
I think you can ask for any time frame you want. We just, the past one was 10. We just thought we'd ask for 10 again.
I think the original thought was that it needed to be at least 10 years so that the planning could be put into place in terms of future road needs.
Commissioner Minema.
So let's say that townships and villages started chatting together and they, over 5 years, really wished they had had actually an increase. I don't anticipate that necessarily happening, but I'm not really, can you go back to the drawing board halfway during a millage?
You'd have to request a new millage, which I think there is a few townships who have their own local initiatives, and I think they have overlapping millages. So there's nothing to prevent that to happen again. If it was us, we'd have to come before the board to make that request and state the reasons why.
Commissioner Moss?
Could you speak to some of the discussion on why there wasn't a request for an increase or why the continuing what there is
Well,
seems?
there definitely
sufficient?
is a need to justify an increase. We
Right.
just think we're always looking at what's the best chance to get a successful ballot initiative. So we just think a renewal is our best chance for success for that.
But is there any kind of limitations on how, like what types of projects you guys are able to do? Are these primarily like preservation type projects, or do townships use this to maybe pave a gravel road or?
It's really to improve paved roads and the higher volume roadways. We don't really use any of the money for traditional maintenance, no snow removal, no pothole filling. It's really just for surface treatments and or drainage improvements, which can also help the road surface.
Okay, so this money wouldn't also be used for the county's public utilities. It's just primarily roadways.
Correct, but that's not to say that we don't partner with projects, meaning if there's a force main or water main improvement project that's funded and we had on our radar to redo that road, we may put some millage money in there for the portion of the actual road that would be done. So it's a win-win for both us and the other partner.
So when you lay out a plan for 10 years and you have other entities, gas company, public utilities, they're able to take that plan and sort of put on their map projects to maybe coordinate. Is there a cost savings when these types of projects get coordinated?
Yeah, there's big cost savings because if we're putting the road in, they don't have to restore the road. Plus there's less inconvenience for the residents who live along that corridor because you're digging a project once is what we try to say. So fix it once instead of coming back in a few later and doing a resurfacing project.
Okay. I know recently the city of Ferrysburg got funding for the West Spring Lake Road Bridge, very popular project. Would they have the ability to take some of their millage funds to match that project, or or do they have the ability to use this money however they see fit for their roads?
They can pick and choose what they want to use that revenue for. So it's limited, not limited to any road per se. They can use it on any road. They could use it for match, but I guess I'm happy to report that project went through the bridge bundling program. So there's zero match on that. So whatever money they were hoping to get, because traditionally you would have a match, they can use on other roads. So we try to leverage as much other funding opportunities as we can with this, so we can do more miles of improvement versus just strictly one road with this revenue. So anytime we have that, and then every year we together our plan, and then also have a public involvement process so we can get comments from residents, also the townships and county officials on what projects make sense at that time.
Commissioner Miedema?
How many townships have you reached out to all the townships and city councils? And of those that have been reached out to, how many of them did respond back? I do see some of the resolutions within the packet.
Yep, so there's 24 communities. We get, I think there's 17 responses in there. 2 more are going to come in April. I think there's a couple that while they're supportive, they didn't want to do a resolution of support and be perceived as supporting more taxes, I guess is a better way to say it. So I'm still hopeful a couple more will come in, but everybody who was at the table with our several meetings sees the need and is supportive to at least ask the voters for that question.
Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, I see there is a lot of support in here. I see Jamestown. I see there's a large list. So I'd just say thank you for going through all that work. And even when you go through and look at the resolutions, it's all mostly unanimous support. There's a couple no's. Do you know kind of the rough cost per resident of this kind of thing? It's like $10 a year, $20 a year.
If the language gets approved at the voters, the way we have it structured, it'd be under 46 cents per $1,000 of taxable value.
So pretty low. Yeah, but big benefit for the road commission.
And
Yeah.
the cities and villages as well.
Yep.
I just a question about process. So when we take a vote on this, should we support this in this committee? It goes on to full Board of Commissioners. I understand there'll be a resolution. Part of that also is a scheduling of public hearings for specific feedback on this. Is there anything else I'm missing that we're being asked to do?
Need public hearing? I don't know if you, I don't think you need a public hearing per se for
Okay.
that. Because that's the voters themselves are gonna make the decision on that. All the full board will do is recommend that this get put on the ballot for voter consideration, and really the voters are the ones who make the decision if that's gonna go through or not.
Okay.
But I guess Jack can maybe answer that question.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah, in the past, that's the way we pass a resolution to put it on the ballot. When the ballot decides,
Right,
we'll
so
decide.
I think it's come through this committee, you make a recommendation to the full board, potentially the next meeting, but that's again, up to you, and then the full board can go through the same process to see if that language makes sense to put on the ballot.
Yeah, I remember reading May 14th was one of those, I guess, important dates to kind of have things in order.
That came from the clerk's office, Justin, that needed it by that date or the August ballot. It would not be possible. You'd have to look at a later date.
Okay.
One more.
Okay.
Could you speak to, just for fun, kind of speak to the roundabouts? I
Just-
like that there's some planned and
Mhm.
just wondering if they're being used strategically or kind of how.
We have several intersections throughout the county that we think that roundabouts would make a sense. Obviously, funding is a big component of that. So we do have, besides the one in Coopersville, which we have some lessons learned on the size of that. So we'd be looking more at the mini roundabouts, which is being pretty popular, where you only have one lane to go around, less confusing. So 120th and Port Sheldon has been identified for years. We have some federal aid on that. We also have some millage revenue. And then we also have 144th and Lincoln, which has been a big traffic problem with 231, especially when the bridge kind of backs up as another alternate route. So that again is also funded with some millage funds and some federal aid. So both of those will be done in 26, and then we kind of have some road improvement resurfacings that'll be staged kind of after that as well. So
When you build those out, who manages or maintains what is in the center of the roundabout? Is that then just road
that's where
commission?
we'll
is
get
that-
with our townships to say if they want any special decorations in there, then they would maintain it. Otherwise,
Okay.
we might just put a hard surface in, so there wouldn't be any maintenance, but we're open for discussions with them as soon as we get a little closer to those dates of what can be done in the center.
Okay, great.
Just one last question for me. How do you guys determine what types of projects you're gonna do? Like when you look at a road and the scope, how do you scope it out? Like what? Because I know there's different types of improvements that, sometimes they use the pea gravel and the stones and that type of thing versus paving.
Well, it's usually the condition of the road, what the rating of it is, traffic volumes, and then maybe what the existing pavement structure is. So a lower volume road, we might do what we call the chip seal, which is what you're describing there, layer of emulsion, some stone on top, and another layer of emulsion. Higher volume roads, you can do something similar to that, but then you get a microsurface, which looks a little more like pavement. So those are kind of our preventative maintenance treatments that we're just trying to continue on, adding a little bit of life to the road. Obviously, the maximum life is to either reconstruct or do a multi-layer mill and resurfacing, which is what the millage money is primarily used for. But sometimes some of the communities, depending on the amount, we just got to do some of these other maintenance treatments on those roads as well. So to answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Moss?
Sure, maybe one more thing. So I'm definitely supportive of sending this to the voters, approving it and letting them decide. I think that's the that's kind of why we're here. Focus on those core government services, and roads definitely, is part of that. And I guess I just wanted to say thanks for all of the information. And I thought it was very well put together. And so I don't know if it was you or staff, but it was very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I guess we'll take a roll call vote on this one as well.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Belknap,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you, Brett. Okay, we don't have any other committee reports at this time, so that gives us a second opportunity for public comment. Again, if anyone would like to make public comment, please come to the podium and you have 3 minutes. Going twice? Okay. At this time, this meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting this morning will be at 10 o'clock, and that's the Finance and Administration Committee. Thank you.